The baby's cries stopped the wedding cold, but what the maid of honor did next made even the most feared man in New Orleans forget how to breathe. Under crystal chandeliers with rain striking the stained glass windows, Natalie Hayes stood beside her best friend and pretended her heart had not shattered 3 months earlier. Then, 7-month-old Ava Kane began screaming from the back of the room, trapped in the arms of Dominic Kane, a man powerful enough to silence judges' rivals and entire neighborhoods, but helpless against his own daughter's pain. Natalie knew that sound. It was not anger, it was grief. What happened after she crossed the aisle would uncover a hidden wound, draw her into a dangerous criminal empire, and force 2 broken people to choose between fear and family. Stay until the end. Like the video and comment where you are watching from. The baby had stopped crying, but Natalie had not. Ava slept against her chest, one warm cheek resting above Natalie's heart, while the wedding continued beyond the alcove as if nothing impossible had happened. Music drifted through the open doorway. Glasses clinked. Guests whispered Dominic Kane's name with the careful fascination people reserved for hurricanes and loaded guns. Dominic remained in front of Natalie, motionless, except for the rise and fall of his chest. "You said her name was Lily," he said. Natalie kept her eyes on Ava. "Yes. How old was she? She never got to be old." The words came out sharper than she intended, but Dominic did not flinch. Ava shifted in her sleep. Natalie tightened her hold without thinking, supporting the back of the child's head with practiced tenderness. Her body knew how to protect a baby. That knowledge had survived even when her daughter had not. Dominic lowered his voice. "When 3 months ago..." Something changed in his face. The suspicion did not disappear, but it made room for understanding. "I am sorry." Natalie had heard those words from doctors, nurses, colleagues, neighbors, and people who had crossed the street to avoid speaking to her afterward. Most of them had said it quickly, as if grief were contagious and sympathy might protect them. Dominic said it without looking away. That made it worse. Natalie swallowed. "Your daughter is underweight." His expression hardened. "She has doctors. She has doctors who see her for 20 minutes and send her home. They ran tests." "And how much does she eat in a day?" Dominic looked toward the hallway. The nanny stood several feet away, twisting a cloth between her fingers. "Some days more than others," he said. "That is not an answer." His gaze returned to Natalie. He was not accustomed to being spoken to this way. She could see it in the slight narrowing of his eyes and the stillness that fell over the 2 men near the ballroom entrance. His anger did not look loud. It looked precise. Natalie should have been afraid. Instead, she heard Ava's weak breathing and felt anger of her own. How much Dominic's jaw moved once. 4 ounces yesterday. Maybe 5. Natalie stared at him. For the whole day, she refuses the bottle. And solid food. She spits it out. Does she arch her back during feedings? Sometimes. Does she cough, gag, or pull away before she swallows? Yes. Has anyone evaluated her for feeding aversion? I do not know. You do not know. The words escaped before she could soften them. Dominic stepped closer. The shadows beneath his eyes were darker at this distance. They were not the marks of one bad night. They were the exhaustion of a man who had not rested since the day his wife died. "I have taken her to every specialist I was given," he said. "I hired nurses, nannies, consultants. One woman flew in from Chicago and stayed for 6 days. They all tell me Ava is healthy. They all tell me to be patient. Then they leave." Natalie looked at the nanny. "How long have you been with her?" The woman blinked. 3 days. "And before you?" "A night nurse from an agency." "How long did she stay?" Dominic answered. 5 days. Ava made a small sound against Natalie's chest. Natalie rubbed her back in slow circles until she settled again. "She does not know who is coming back?" Natalie said. Dominic's brow tightened. "What does that mean?" "It means every time she starts recognizing a voice, a smell, or a way of being held, that person disappears. They leave because she screams." Natalie finally looked at him. "And she screams because they keep leaving." The words landed between them. Dominic's face did not change, but one of his hands slowly closed into a fist. From the ballroom, applause rose as Harper and Ryan completed their vows. Natalie should have been standing beside her best friend. She should have been smiling for photographs, holding flowers, and pretending that weddings did not make her think about the life she had almost built. Instead, she sat hidden in an alcove with another woman's child sleeping in her arms. A familiar pressure gathered behind her eyes. The hospital returned without warning. White ceiling tiles. A machine beeping beside her bed. Her tongue dry from anesthesia. The crushing weight across her abdomen where surgeons had opened her body. Natalie had awakened believing Lily was alive because no one had told her otherwise. She had turned toward the bassinet beside the bed and found it empty. "Where is my baby?" The nurse had been adjusting an IV line. She froze with one hand on the plastic tubing. "Ms. Hayes, the doctor is coming to speak with you." Natalie had tried to sit up. Pain ripped through her abdomen. "Where is she?" The nurse looked at the floor. That was the moment Natalie understood. Not because anyone had spoken, because the nurse could not meet her eyes. Natalie had started shaking so violently that the monitor leads pulled loose from her chest. She remembered asking to see Lily. She remembered a doctor saying there had been complications. She remembered the words "too early," "no heartbeat," and "we did everything we could." She did not remember screaming. She only remembered waking again hours later with a folded yellow blanket on the chair and milk soaking through the front of her hospital gown. Her body had prepared to feed a child the world had already taken away. Ava moved against her now, and the memory released its grip. Dominic was watching her. Natalie wiped her cheek with the back of one hand. Where is Ava's mother? The question emptied the air. The nanny looked away. One of Dominic's guards lowered his eyes. Dominic stared at his daughter. Claire died the night Ava was born. Natalie closed her eyes for a moment. I heard people talking at the rehearsal dinner. I was not sure. People enjoy discussing my family when they think I cannot hear them. What happened? Bleeding after the delivery. His voice remained controlled, but the hand at his side tightened again. I was downstairs speaking to a surgeon. They told me Claire was stable. 10 minutes later, she was not. And Ava, she was in the nursery. Did Claire ever hold her? No. The word came out almost soundless. Did you? Dominic looked at Natalie then. Not until the next morning. Natalie glanced down at Ava's sleeping face. Who stayed with her that first night, nurses? And after you brought her home, my sister stayed for 2 weeks. Then she had to return to California. After that, I hired help. Natalie nodded slowly. It did not explain everything. Babies were not mysteries that could be solved by one tragic fact. Ava might have physical discomfort, oral motor difficulties, reflux, or sensory issues. But grief did not begin with language. Fear did not require memory in the way adults understood it. A newborn could lose a voice, a scent, a rhythm, and experience that absence in every cell of her body. Dominic shifted his attention to Natalie's dress. You are still producing milk. It was not a question. Heat rose to Natalie's face, followed immediately by anger at herself for feeling embarrassed. My body did not understand that Lily died. How long does that last? It depends. Does it hurt? Natalie looked away. Sometimes. That was not the pain he meant, and they both knew it. Footsteps approached. Harper appeared in the doorway, the train of her wedding dress gathered in one hand. Her expression moved from concern to shock when she saw Ava sleeping against Natalie. "There you are." Natalie stood carefully. "I am sorry. I should have come back." Harper walked closer. "You do not have to apologize." Her gaze lowered to the child. "Is she all right?" "She is asleep." Harper looked at Dominic. "Mr. Kane, Mrs. Bennett." The formality sounded strange in the small alcove. Harper turned back to Natalie. Her eyes asked questions she would not voice in front of strangers. Ryan appeared behind her, followed by his mother. His mother surveyed the scene with rigid disapproval. "This is a private family event," she said. "Perhaps the child should be taken somewhere quieter." Dominic's head turned. The temperature in the alcove seemed to drop. Ryan stepped forward before he could answer. "Mom, please go back to the guests." She opened her mouth. "Now," Ryan said. His mother left without another word. Dominic watched her disappear. "You married into a brave family," he told Harper. Harper did not smile. "I married Ryan. The rest came with the paperwork." A sound that was almost a laugh moved through Dominic's chest, then vanished. Natalie shifted Ava higher. "She needs a medical evaluation, not another general appointment. A feeding specialist, a developmental assessment, and someone who understands infant attachment." Dominic nodded. "Arrange it." Natalie stared at him. "I am not arranging anything. You know what she needs. I know what she might need. That does not make me her doctor. You are a therapist, a child and family therapist. I do not diagnose babies in wedding alcoves." "Then come with me tomorrow." Harper's eyes sharpened. "Come with you where? To the clinic." Natalie shook her head. "I can give you referrals." "I have referrals. You need to attend the appointments yourself." "I will. And you need one consistent caregiver." Dominic's gaze held hers. "You." Harper stepped between them slightly. "No." Dominic did not look at her. "I was not asking you. You are asking my best friend to move into your house after knowing her for less than an hour. I did not say move into my house." Natalie heard the pause. "You were about to." Dominic met her eyes. "My daughter calmed down for the first time in weeks while you held her. She needs more than breastfeeding. Then show me what else she needs. I can recommend someone. I have hired people with perfect recommendations. They leave, then become the person who stays." The words struck him. For several seconds, Dominic said nothing. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. "She cries when I hold her, then hold her while she cries." His jaw tightened. "You think I have not tried? I think you are afraid of what her crying makes you feel." A shadow crossed his face. Harper touched Natalie's elbow. "That is enough." Natalie knew Harper was right. She was exhausted, triggered, and standing too close to a man whose grief mirrored her own in ways that were already becoming dangerous. Dominic stepped back. 2 weeks. Natalie frowned. "What helped me for 2 weeks? Assess her routine. Work with the doctors. Teach me what I am doing wrong." "You cannot hire someone to fix your grief." "No." His eyes moved to Ava. "But I can ask someone to help me stop failing my daughter." That honesty silenced Natalie more effectively than anger would have. Dominic reached into his jacket and removed a card. He held it out. Natalie did not take it. "I have clients. Keep them. I have an apartment. Keep it. I have a life." His eyes returned to her face. "Do you?" Harper inhaled sharply. Natalie felt the words like a slap because they were cruel and because they were true. For 3 months, she had moved between her apartment, her office, and the cemetery. She answered emails, attended sessions, bought groceries, and returned calls. She performed the visible actions of living while some essential part of her remained in that hospital bed. Dominic seemed to regret the question as soon as he saw her expression. "I should not have said that." "No," Natalie said. "You should not have." Ava stirred. Her face tightened before the cry came. Natalie sat again, but she did not immediately offer her breast. She held Ava against her shoulder, swayed gently, and hummed the first melody that came to mind. It was the lullaby she had planned to sing to Lily. The cry weakened. Dominic watched every movement. Harper knelt beside Natalie. "Look at me." Natalie did. "You do not owe them anything. I know. Helping this baby will not bring Lily back. I know." "Do you?" Natalie's throat closed. Harper softened. "I am not trying to take this away from you. I am trying to make sure you understand why you want it." Natalie looked down at Ava. The child's fingers had curled around a fold of her dress. "When I heard her cry, I could not leave her there. That is not the same as moving into his life." Dominic stood several feet away, saying nothing. Natalie turned to him. "If I agree to attend one appointment tomorrow, it does not mean I am accepting your offer." "Understood. And you will not send men to my apartment?" One of the guards looked toward Dominic. Dominic answered without hesitation. "I will not. You will not have anyone investigate me." A pause. Harper gave him a cold look. Dominic exhaled. "I already know where you work." Natalie stared at him. "Then forget it. I did not order an investigation. Ryan introduced you to several people at the rehearsal dinner. Your profession came up." Ryan appeared uncomfortable. "It did," Dominic continued. "If you come tomorrow, my driver will take you to the clinic and return you wherever you choose. I can drive myself. Then, drive yourself." Natalie finally took the card. The paper felt too heavy in her hand. The reception resumed around them, but Natalie remained in the alcove until Ava woke. When the baby began searching against her chest again, Natalie looked at Dominic. "This cannot continue without medical approval." He nodded. "One more feeding tonight," she said. "Then the nanny follows the pediatrician's instructions until tomorrow." Dominic's expression tightened at the thought of Ava crying again, but he accepted it. When Ava finished, Natalie placed her into his arms. The child immediately stiffened. Dominic's fear flashed across his face. "Do not give her back," Natalie said. Ava began to fuss. Dominic held her as though she might break. "Support her neck. Bring her closer." He followed the instruction. "She is going to cry." "I know. No, you are waiting for it. Stop waiting." His eyes lifted to Natalie's. "What am I supposed to do?" "Breathe." Ava's cry rose. Dominic's chest barely moved. Natalie stepped closer, slowly. He inhaled. Again. He tried. Ava's fists loosened slightly. "Talk to her." "I do not know what to say." "Tell her about Claire." His face went still. Natalie thought he might refuse. Then Dominic looked down at his daughter. "Your mother hated this house," he said quietly. "Said it looked like a hotel designed by a man with no friends." Ava cried against his chest. Dominic kept speaking. "She wanted yellow curtains in your room. I told her yellow looked cheap. She told me my suits looked like funeral clothes." Harper looked away, giving him privacy. Ava's cry softened into broken whimpers. Dominic swallowed. She was usually right. For the first time, Ava remained in her father's arms without arching away. Natalie watched them together and felt something inside her shift. Not heal. Not yet. But move. The next morning, Natalie drove to a pediatric feeding clinic near Audubon Park. She told herself she was there as a professional courtesy. She repeated it while signing in, while sitting beneath cheerful murals of animals, and while watching Dominic enter carrying Ava in a gray blanket. He wore no tie. His coat was open. Marcus Reed, his head of security, remained near the entrance instead of following them inside. Dominic handed Natalie a folder, her medical records. She opened it. The file was thick, but the pattern was clear. Repeated evaluations. Normal blood work. Mild reflux. Poor weight gain. Notes describing Ava as irritable, difficult to console, and resistant to feeding. Natalie disliked the language immediately. The feeding therapist observed Ava with a bottle. Ava turned away before the nipple reached her mouth. Her body stiffened and panic rose within seconds. The specialist stopped rather than forcing her. "That is a strong aversion response," she said. Dominic leaned forward. "Can you treat it?" "Yes, but not quickly. We need to rebuild trust around feeding." A pediatrician examined Ava and confirmed that she was underweight but not in immediate danger. A developmental specialist noted weak trunk control and delays in sitting. Then the lactation consultant spoke privately with Natalie. She asked about medications, health history, alcohol use, and infectious disease screening. Natalie answered every question. Blood tests were ordered. The consultant explained that direct nursing could continue temporarily if the screening was clear, and both Natalie and Dominic provided informed consent. Ava would still need expressed milk formula support, feeding therapy, and gradual introduction of solids. Dominic listened to every word. He did not interrupt. By late afternoon, Ava had cried through 2 evaluations and fallen asleep against Natalie's shoulder. They sat in a consultation room while rain streaked the window. Dominic placed a document on the table. Natalie looked at it. A caregiving agreement temporary. She read the first page. The salary made her look up. No. Too low, too high. It is compensation for leaving your home and adjusting your work. I have not agreed to leave my home. You said consistency matters. It does. Then coming for several hours and disappearing every night defeats the purpose. Natalie hated that he had listened closely enough to use her own reasoning against her. She turned the page. I want my own room with a lock. You will have it. No cameras inside it. There are no cameras in bedrooms, no listening devices. Dominic's mouth tightened. There are no listening devices in bedrooms. My work calls are private. I will give you an office. No one enters it without permission. Agreed. I keep my apartment. Yes. I keep my clients. Yes. I can leave at any time. His gaze held hers. Yes. You participate in Ava's care every day. Feedings, baths, appointments, bedtime. I am not moving in so you can replace a series of nannies with me. Something unreadable passed through his eyes. Agreed. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. No extensions unless we both discuss it. His expression remained still. Agreed. Natalie picked up the pen. Her hand trembled. Dominic noticed. You do not have to do this. She looked at him. That is the first sensible thing you have said since we met. He leaned back. I am serious. So am I. Natalie glanced at Ava asleep beneath the gray blanket. Then she thought of Lily, the yellow blanket and the empty bassinet that still waited inside her memory. She signed her name. Dominic signed beneath it. The elevator opened directly into the Kane penthouse that evening. Natalie stepped inside with one suitcase and a folder of medical instructions pressed against her chest. The space beyond the doors was all glass stone and quiet wealth. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Mississippi River. Armed security stood near the entrance. Somewhere deeper inside the apartment, a nursery waited for a baby who had never felt at home there. Dominic carried Ava across the threshold. Natalie followed. The elevator doors closed behind her with a soft, metallic sound. Dominic turned toward the hallway. Her room is next to yours. Natalie tightened her grip on the suitcase handle. Show me. Dominic led Natalie down a silent hallway where city lights moved across polished stone. The penthouse was enormous, but it did not feel lived in. No shoes waited beside the door. No family photographs crowded the tables. Every surface looked chosen by someone paid to understand wealth but not warmth. The nursery stood at the end of the hall. Natalie stopped in the doorway. Cream walls, white furniture, a hand-painted sky above the crib, shelves filled with untouched toys, tiny dresses arranged by color and size. Everything was perfect. Nothing felt loved. Dominic stood behind her with Ava sleeping against his shoulder. "Do you hate it?" he asked. "Why would I hate it? You are looking at the room like it insulted you." Natalie crossed the room and opened one curtain. Moonlight entered in a narrow silver band. "Close that," Dominic said. She turned. "The building across the river has a clear line of sight. You are worried about someone watching the nursery. I am worried about people who do more than watch." Natalie closed the curtain halfway. "Then we compromise. I do not compromise on security. You just did." He studied the narrow opening but did not argue. Dominic placed Ava in the crib. His hand remained on the rail after he stepped back. "You can touch her," Natalie said. "I know. You act like you need permission." His eyes shifted toward her. "I spent 7 months being told everything I did made her cry. That does not mean she does not need you. It feels like it. Feelings are not always evidence." Ava stirred beneath the blanket. Both of them fell silent until her breathing settled again. "We start in the morning," Natalie said. "I want every bottle, every medical note, every sleep record, and every caregiver schedule you have. I will have Marcus bring them. You will bring them." Dominic's mouth tightened. "You said I had to participate. You listened. I listen when someone says something useful." Natalie lifted her suitcase. "My room." He pointed across the hall. The guest room was larger than her apartment. A low bed faced the river and a brass key waited on the nightstand. Dominic placed it in her palm. "No one enters without your permission. Not even you. Especially me." Their eyes held for a second. Then Ava cried. Dominic reached the nursery first. He lifted his daughter but held her too far from his chest, as though distance might protect both of them. "Closer," Natalie said. He obeyed. Ava cried harder. "She is searching. For what? Something familiar. I am her father. Then become familiar." His jaw tightened, but he did not hand the baby over. Natalie guided his palm across Ava's back. "Slow your breathing. I am breathing. You are preparing for a gunfight. That is usually easier. Talk to her. What do I say? Anything true?" Dominic looked down at Ava. "Your mother wanted to name you Josephine." Ava continued crying, but the sound became less sharp. "I told her no daughter of mine would have a name that belonged in a convent." Natalie almost smiled. Claire said Ava sounded like a woman who knew how to survive a storm. His voice roughened. She was right. Ava's fist opened against his shirt. Dominic stared at her as if silence were a miracle. "Sit with her," Natalie said. He lowered himself into the rocking chair. Ava rested against his chest. Natalie left before he could ask her to stay. The next morning began before sunrise. At 5:43, Ava's cry came through the wall. Natalie found Dominic already in the nursery, his hair uncombed and his shirt half-buttoned. "You came," he said. "She is hungry. I tried the bottle. Did she turn away before it touched her mouth?" "Yes." Natalie washed her hands, took Ava, and settled into the glider. The baby latched almost immediately. Dominic remained near the window. "You can sit," Natalie said. "I am fine. You are making me nervous." That surprised him. He lowered himself into the chair opposite her. Natalie reached for the notebook she had placed on the table. "Time of feeding 5:48. We track how long she nurses, whether she coughs, whether she pulls away, and how she behaves afterward. I can build a better system. She is a baby, not a shipping terminal. I meant a chart. A notebook works. A notebook can be lost. So can a phone." His eyes narrowed. "You always have an answer. Only when you give me easy questions." For the first time, Dominic smiled. It changed his face. The severity loosened, revealing a younger man beneath the reputation. Ava finished nursing and fell asleep. Natalie handed her to Dominic. He took her without hesitation. That small change mattered. The first days formed a rhythm. Ava slept in short stretches and woke frightened. She resisted bottles before tasting them. Her body stiffened when unfamiliar people entered the room. Natalie reduced the number of staff moving through the penthouse. By the second day, only Marcus and one housekeeper entered the nursery regularly. Marcus was broad-shouldered, quiet, and constantly alert. On the third morning, Natalie found him in the kitchen studying the instructions on a bottle warmer. "You know there are people who can do that for you," she said. "I know." "Then why are you doing it?" Mr. Kane said everyone close to Ava should learn. He frowned at the machine. "I have disarmed bombs with clearer instructions." Natalie showed him how to test the milk against his wrist. He followed each step with solemn concentration. That afternoon, Ava accepted half an ounce from a bottle while resting against Dominic's chest. No one spoke. Dominic looked at Natalie. She nodded once. His shoulders lowered. That evening, Natalie heard him cancel a meeting from the study. "No, move it to Friday." A pause followed. "I do not care what Senator Wexler prefers." Another pause. "My daughter has an appointment." He ended the call before the person on the other side could argue. At the clinic the following morning, Ava had gained 3 ounces. The number was small, but Dominic stared at the scale as if it had delivered a verdict. The feeding therapist showed them how to offer the bottle without pressure. Ava cried at first, but Dominic did not retreat. He hummed the same melody Natalie had used at the wedding. She looked at him. "You remember it. You sing it every night." I did not know anyone was listening. "I listen." The words stayed with her during the drive home. By the 5th day, Ava slept for 3 hours without waking. Natalie used the quiet to conduct a session from the private office Dominic had prepared. The room was soundproofed simple and free of cameras. No guards stood outside the door. Her client was a 16-year-old boy whose father had died in a car accident. He spoke about anger, guilt, and the shame he felt whenever he laughed. "You are not betraying your father by having a good day," Natalie told him. "Grief is not proof of love. Love existed before grief." The words left her mouth and returned like an accusation. After the session, she remained seated in front of the dark screen. A soft cry came through the baby monitor. Natalie rose too quickly, knocking her knee against the desk. She crossed the hallway and found Ava still asleep. Dominic stood in the nursery doorway. "You heard her too," Natalie whispered. He listened. The room was silent. She did not cry. Natalie stepped closer to the crib. Ava slept on her back, one hand beside her face. The nursery blurred. For one terrible second, the crib became the hospital bassinet. Ava's pink blanket turned yellow. The silence became the silence Natalie had awakened to after surgery. She lowered herself to the floor before her legs failed. Dominic closed the door behind him. He did not touch her. "What do you need?" "I do not know." Natalie pressed one hand to her mouth. "Sometimes I wake up thinking Lily is alive somewhere, that the hospital made a mistake, that she is waiting for me and I cannot find her." Dominic sat beside her. For a moment he watched Ava sleep. "I still reach for Claire." Natalie turned toward him. "At night," he continued. "For half a second I forget she is gone. Then I remember." His voice remained controlled, but his eyes did not. "It feels like losing her twice." Natalie nodded. They sat together on the nursery floor while Ava slept between them. Neither tried to repair the other. That night Dominic cooked dinner. Natalie found him in the kitchen with his sleeves rolled to his elbows and flour on one cuff. "What are you making food?" "That narrows it down." "Chicken with lemon. My mother's recipe." "You cook." My mother considered it a moral failure for an Italian-American man to depend on restaurants. Natalie leaned against the counter. "I thought you had people for this." "I do." Then why are you doing it? Dominic glanced at her. Because you look like someone who has forgotten to eat. He placed a plate in front of her. The meal was simple, warm, and better than anything Natalie had eaten since the hospital. Dominic sat across from her. My mother died when I was 17, he said. Natalie looked up. Car accident. My father stopped speaking about her within a week. He believed grief made men weak. Did you believe him? For a long time. And now, his gaze moved toward the baby monitor beside the salt cellar. Now I think refusing to grieve makes men cruel. Natalie studied him. Claire loved you. Yes. The answer came without hesitation. Did you love her? Dominic paused. We married because our families wanted it. She was kind to me before I had earned kindness. Over time, that became something I trusted more than passion. What was she like? She hated expensive flowers. She gave money to every musician in the French Quarter. She could not keep a secret if it made someone happy. His mouth softened. She laughed when she was angry. It was terrifying. Natalie smiled. Dominic noticed. What? Nothing. You are smiling at me. I was smiling at her. The room became quiet. Dominic looked down at his hands. Tell me about Lily. Natalie stopped breathing. Most people avoided her daughter's name. Even Harper said it carefully, as though touching a bruise. She had dark hair, Natalie said. More than I expected. Dominic waited. She weighed 4 pounds and 1 ounce, 10 fingers, 10 toes. The nurse took 1 photograph. You saw her? Only in the photograph. His eyes lifted. I was unconscious during the surgery. By the time I woke up, they had taken her away. Did you ask to hold her? Yes. What did they say? That hospital procedure had already been followed. Dominic's face hardened. Natalie recognized the cold stillness that had silenced the wedding alcove. Do not, she said. Do not what? Turn my grief into a reason to punish someone. I did not say anything. You did not have to. He leaned back. Who was Lily's father? Natalie's fingers tightened around her glass. His name is Caleb. Where is he, Houston? Why is he not here? He controlled everything. My schedule, my friends, what I wore, which clients I saw. When the pregnancy became difficult, the doctor told me to reduce stress. Caleb said I was being dramatic. Dominic's expression became unreadable. The night before I went into labor, we fought. I told him I was leaving. He told me no one would want a woman carrying another man's child. Her voice broke. I should have left sooner. Dominic reached across the table. Natalie pulled her hand away. Do not tell me it was not my fault. He left his hand resting between them. I was going to tell you that loving the wrong person does not make you responsible for everything they destroy. The word struck somewhere deep. Natalie slowly placed her hand beneath his. His fingers closed around hers. Ava cried through the monitor. Natalie began to rise. Dominic stood first. I have her. He went to the nursery alone. Natalie remained at the table listening. Ava cried for several minutes. Dominic spoke softly. He did not call for help. The crying faded. On the 10th day, Ava sat without support for 4 seconds. Natalie clapped. Dominic dropped to one knee beside the playmat. Again he said. Ava stared at him with serious dark eyes, then tipped sideways into a cushion. Natalie laughed. Dominic caught the baby and laughed with her. The sound filled the penthouse. Marcus appeared in the doorway, looked at Dominic, and quietly disappeared before anyone noticed him. The days continued. Ava accepted more milk from Dominic. She ate sweet potato from a spoon and spread most of it across his shirt. Natalie read board books while Dominic answered messages beside them. He began returning home before bedtime. Her toothbrush remained in the guest bathroom. Her shoes appeared beside the front door. A second coffee mug waited beside Dominic's every morning. On the 14th evening, Natalie placed folded clothes into her suitcase. Ava sat on the rug holding a wooden ring. Dominic entered and stopped. "Our agreement ends tomorrow," Natalie said. "I know." She waited. He said nothing. "You have the feeding plan. The clinic is satisfied with her progress. Marcus knows the routine." "Yes. Your sister said she can visit next month." "Yes." Natalie folded another blouse. The silence became unbearable. "Do you want me to leave?" Dominic's face closed. "That was the agreement." "That is not what I asked." Ava dropped the wooden ring and began to fuss. Natalie picked her up. The baby pressed her face against Natalie's chest. Dominic watched them. "I do not know how to ask you to stay without using my daughter as a reason." Natalie's throat tightened. "Then, do not use her." His eyes met hers. Before he could answer, Natalie felt heat beneath her palm. She touched Ava's forehead. "Dominic." He was beside her at once. "What?" "She has a fever." The thermometer read 102. Within 20 minutes, they were in the back of Dominic's car, heading toward the hospital. Ava cried weakly against Natalie while Dominic held a cool cloth to her neck. At the emergency room, he paced until Natalie caught his hand. "Sit." "I cannot." "She needs you calm." He sat. The fever came from a common viral infection. The doctor assured them Ava was hydrated and stable, but they remained through the night. Dominic held his daughter while Natalie slept with her head against his shoulder. At dawn, the fever began to fall. They returned to the penthouse in silence. Natalie carried her suitcase back into the guest room and placed it beside the bed. She did not unpack it. She did not leave. 3 days later, Harper met her at a cafe near Magazine Street. Ava slept in a stroller beside the table. Marcus waited outside far enough away to pretend he was not watching every entrance. Harper studied Natalie over her coffee. "You look different." "Exhausted alive." Natalie looked down. Harper continued. "You call the penthouse home." "I do not. You did twice in the first 10 minutes. Natalie glanced toward Ava. "She is doing better. I can see that." "Dominic is doing better too." Harper leaned back. "There it is." "What?" "The way your face changes when you say his name. This is not about him." "Then why are you still there?" Natalie opened her mouth and found no answer. Harper reached across the table. "Are you staying because Ava needs you?" "Yes, only because Ava needs you." Natalie watched the baby sleep. "I do not know where helping them ends and loving them begins." Harper's expression softened. "Then you need to ask him the same question." That evening, Dominic stood near the windows when Natalie entered the penthouse. His jacket was gone, and his tie hung loose around his collar. How was Harper honest? That sounds dangerous. Natalie handed Ava to Marcus and waited until he carried her toward the nursery. "We need to talk." Dominic's body went still. "About what, my place here?" His face closed so quickly it was almost cruel. "You want to leave. I want the truth. I have never lied to you. You avoid the truth with impressive discipline." He turned toward the river. Natalie moved closer. "I need to know whether I am a caregiver in your house or a woman in your life." Dominic did not answer. "Look at me." He did. The control in his face was gone. "You are the first person I look for when I walk through that door." Natalie's pulse quickened. "That is not enough. It is more than I have given anyone since Claire. I am not Claire. I know. Then stop talking to me like wanting me is a betrayal of her. Dominic crossed the distance between them. You think that is what stops me? What does you? Natalie held his gaze. What about me? You are grieving. You came here because my daughter needed you. I gave you a room, a salary security, and a reason not to return to an empty apartment. His voice lowered. How do I know you want me, and not the life that keeps you from feeling Lily's absence? The question hurt, because Natalie had asked it of herself every night. I do not know, she said. Dominic's jaw tightened. But I know I wait for your footsteps in the hallway. I know I can tell what kind of day you had by the way you set down your keys. I know you pretend not to watch me feed Ava. I know I miss you when you are in the next room. His breathing changed. Natalie stepped closer. I need to know whether I am useful to you or wanted by you. Dominic raised one hand and touched her face. You are dangerous to me. That is still not an answer. His thumb moved slowly across her cheek. I want you to stay long enough to regret me. Natalie's heart pounded against her ribs. Then, give me something worth regretting. He kissed her. For 1 second, the kiss was careful. Then weeks of restraint broke apart. Dominic pulled her closer. Natalie gripped his shirt, feeling the strength he kept hidden beneath controlled movements. The city lights blurred beyond the glass as his hand settled against the small of her back. When they separated, both of them were breathing hard. Ava cried from the nursery. Dominic rested his forehead against Natalie's. This changes everything. Natalie looked toward the hallway, then back at him. It already changed. They walked to the nursery together. Ava stood inside the crib with both hands wrapped around the rail, her face wet with tears. The moment she saw Natalie, she reached out. Natalie stopped before lifting her. Dominic noticed. What is it? She needs to know you can comfort her too. Ava cried harder, stretching toward Natalie. Every instinct in Natalie urged her forward. Her arms already ached to hold the child, but she remained beside the crib and looked at Dominic. Pick her up. Dominic lifted Ava against his chest. She twisted toward Natalie. I am right here, Natalie whispered. Daddy has you. Dominic glanced at her when she said the word. Daddy, not Dominic, not your father. Something warmer, something ordinary. He carried Ava to the rocking chair and sat with her against his heart. Natalie lowered herself onto the rug nearby. Ava continued to cry. Dominic looked toward Natalie. Do not rescue me, he said. I was not going to. You were thinking about it. I am allowed to think. A faint smile touched his mouth but disappeared when Ava buried her face against his neck. Dominic began telling her about the city. He described the streetcars on St. Charles Avenue and the smell of bread outside the bakeries before sunrise. He told her about musicians who played beneath balconies in the French Quarter and old men who argued over football in cafes where no one ever left hungry. His voice became slower. Ava's cries weakened. Natalie watched his hand move across the baby's back with growing confidence. He had stopped holding Ava like a problem he might fail to solve. He was holding her like his daughter. When Ava finally slept, Dominic remained in the chair. Natalie stood. We need to talk about what happened in the living room. His eyes remained on Ava. I know. Not tonight. He looked up. Why? Because we are both exhausted, and I do not want the first honest conversation between us to happen while one of us is afraid the other might disappear before breakfast. Dominic studied her. You are still afraid I will ask you to leave. I am afraid you will ask me to stay for the wrong reason. And what would the right reason be? Natalie glanced at Ava. one that has nothing to do with whether she finishes a bottle. She left him in the nursery. The conversation happened the following evening. Natalie sat across from Dominic in his study while rain pressed against the windows. No guards waited outside. No phone rested on the desk between them. Dominic had removed his jacket and rolled his sleeves to his forearms, but he still looked like a man preparing for judgment. Natalie placed the temporary caregiving agreement on the table. "This cannot continue the way it began." Dominic's face hardened. "You said you were not leaving. I said we needed honesty." He leaned back. "I am listening. I will keep my work. I will keep my apartment. I will continue seeing my therapist." "Agreed. I am not asking permission." His gaze sharpened. Natalie continued. "If I remain involved in Ava's care, I will be paid for the professional work. The nursing plan, developmental support appointments, and anything related to the agreement. And everything else cannot be bought." Dominic looked at her for a long moment. "You believe I would try? I believe money is how you solve discomfort. That is not an answer. It is the one you are getting." He accepted it with a slight nod. Natalie folded her hands. "I also want legal protections for Ava." "What kind?" "If something happens to you, I have no authority. Your sister lives across the country. Your organization is not a legal guardian. Nothing is going to happen to me." Natalie stared at him. Dominic exhaled. "I will contact my attorney. I want to be included." "You will be. And I need one more promise." His expression changed. "What?" "You will not use security to control where I go. If there is danger, I will protect you." That was not what I said. Dominic rose and crossed to the windows. "The world I live in does not respect personal freedom when someone wants leverage. Then tell me the truth about the danger. Let me make informed decisions. I will not debate your safety." Natalie stood. "Then we are finished." He turned. The word struck him harder than she expected. "You would leave over that I would leave before living with another man who calls control protection." Dominic went still. Natalie had told him enough about Caleb for him to understand. She softened her voice, but not her position. "You are not him. Do not make me prove it by running." Dominic looked toward the river. For several seconds only the rain spoke. Finally he said, "I will tell you when there is a threat. I will explain what I know. You will have a voice in decisions that affect you, and if we disagree, I will try to listen before I give an order." Natalie almost smiled. "That sounds painful. It will be unbearable." She walked toward him. "What are we doing, Dominic?" He looked down at her. "I do not know how to do this slowly. Learn. I do not know how to separate wanting you from needing you here. Then do not promise forever tonight." His hand rose but stopped before touching her. Natalie closed the distance and placed his palm against her cheek. "Start with tomorrow." Dominic bent and kissed her. This time the kiss was not desperate. It was deliberate. A choice made with open eyes. The days that followed felt almost peaceful. Natalie returned to her apartment twice a week. She attended therapy in person and met Harper for lunch without security inside the restaurant. Marcus remained nearby, but he kept enough distance to let her breathe. Dominic attended every medical appointment Ava had. He learned how to prepare bottles, how to recognize tired cries, and how to sit through frustration without treating it like failure. Ava began accepting small amounts of milk from him before bed. One afternoon, Natalie entered the nursery and found Dominic asleep in the rocking chair. Ava slept on his chest, one hand curled around his shirt. Natalie stood in the doorway, unwilling to disturb them. Marcus appeared behind her. "I have known him 15 years, he said quietly. "I have never seen him sleep with a door open." Natalie looked at Dominic. "He trusts the people in this house." Marcus gave her a measured look. He trusts you. A week later, Dominic drove Natalie and Ava to a cemetery beneath a sky heavy with summer heat. Claire's grave stood beneath an oak tree. White roses had been placed beside the stone that morning. Dominic carried Ava while Natalie held a small bouquet of wildflowers. "You do not have to do this," he said. "I know." Natalie knelt beside the grave. Claire Elizabeth Kane, beloved wife, beloved mother. The dates beneath her name were separated by only 30 years. Natalie placed the flowers beside the roses. "I am not here to take your place," she whispered. Dominic stood behind her. "You could not." Natalie turned. His face remained solemn. "You are making a new one," he said. Ava reached toward the stone. Dominic lowered her until her small fingers touched the cool surface. Natalie looked away, giving father and daughter a moment that belonged to Claire. On the drive home, Dominic kept one hand on the steering wheel and the other resting near Natalie's. He did not reach for her. Natalie placed her hand over his. The call came 3 days later. Dominic was in the kitchen cutting fruit for Ava when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and answered. His posture changed before he spoke. "What happened?" Natalie sat at the table with Ava in her lap. Dominic listened in silence. The knife remained on the cutting board. "How many?" His voice became colder. When another pause. "Lock down the other locations. No one moves without Marcus confirming it." He ended the call. Natalie felt Ava's small hand grip her finger. "What happened?" Dominic looked at the child before looking at Natalie. "One of my riverfront warehouses was attacked. Was anyone hurt?" 3 men are dead." The room seemed to lose its warmth. Natalie had met some of Dominic's people without learning their full names. Men who opened doors, carried files, and stood in hallways with calm eyes. Who did it? Warren Vale. She recognized the name. Ryan had mentioned the Vale faction at the wedding, a family that controlled gambling rooms and trucking routes west of the city. Dominic picked up his phone again. "You and Ava are leaving tonight." Natalie rose slowly. "Where? A property in the bayou. For how long until this is handled?" What does handled mean? His eyes met hers. "It means Vale understands that attacking my people has consequences. Are you planning a war? I am planning to keep my family alive." Natalie carried Ava to the playpen and placed her inside with a toy. Then she turned back to Dominic. "You promised to explain the danger." "I just did." "No. You gave me an order." His jaw tightened. "This is not the time. It is exactly the time." Dominic crossed the kitchen. 3 men died less than an hour ago. Vale knows this building, my schedule, and the people close to me. I will not leave you here while I respond. Then we go together. I cannot take you where I am going. Why? Because you should not see that part of me. Natalie held his gaze. "I already know it exists. Knowing is not the same as watching. Then find another way." His voice rose. "There is no other way." Ava made a frightened sound from the playpen. Both of them stopped. Dominic closed his eyes. When he spoke again, his voice was controlled. "The safe house is secure. Marcus will stay with you. I will come when I can." Natalie shook her head. "No, this is not negotiable." "Then you have mistaken me for one of your employees." His eyes flashed. "Natalie, if you send Ava and me away every time someone threatens you, every rival in this city learns exactly how to control you. I do not care what they think if you are safe. You should, because the first time it works, they will do it again." Dominic stared at her. She stepped closer. "We go to the safe house. You coordinate from there when possible. You tell me what is happening. You return every night unless you physically cannot. My men need to see me. Then see them. You do not understand. Help me understand. His hands closed around the edge of the counter. Natalie lowered her voice. Do not shut me out because the truth is ugly. Dominic looked toward Ava. For the first time, Natalie saw fear defeat anger in his face. All right, he said. We leave in 2 hours. The safe house stood beyond a long road lined with cypress trees. Dark water shimmered between the trunks and Spanish moss moved in the humid air. The house itself was built from stone and heavy timber. Guards were hidden among the trees, but Natalie could feel their presence. Inside, baby toys were placed beside emergency radios. Diapers filled one cabinet, while ammunition cases sat locked inside another. Marcus showed Natalie the upstairs rooms. No windows facing the road, he said. The glass is reinforced. There are 2 exits from every floor. Natalie looked at him. Do you say that to make people feel safer? No. At least you are honest. Dominic turned the dining room into a command center. Maps covered the table. Phones rang constantly. Men came and went through the side entrance. Conversations shifted into quiet voices whenever Natalie entered. The first night, Dominic did not come upstairs until after 2 in the morning. Natalie sat beside Ava's crib reading while the baby slept. Dominic appeared in the doorway. Mud stained his shoes. Blood marked 2 knuckles. Natalie closed the book. Is that yours? No. She stood and walked toward him. Who's a man who knew where Vale moved the weapons? Did he tell you willingly? Dominic said nothing. Natalie brought him into the bathroom and turned on the tap. He watched as she cleaned his hand. You are not going to ask what I did, I know enough. Does it disgust you? She met his eyes in the mirror. I can understand why you do something without pretending it is right. That sounds like judgment. It is. Dominic looked away. Natalie wrapped a clean cloth around his hand. That may be more mercy than I deserve, he said. I am not offering mercy. What are you offering? The truth. He touched her waist. Natalie rested her forehead against his chest. His heartbeat was fast. For all his control, downstairs, fear still lived inside him. 2 days passed. Dominic slept only a few hours. Natalie maintained Ava's routine as closely as possible. Meals at the same time. The same books. The same song before bed. Ava adjusted to the new environment faster than either of them expected. She pressed her palms against the windows and stared at birds moving between the trees. Downstairs, the pressure grew. Julian Cross arrived on the 3rd afternoon. Natalie had met him only once. He was polished, silver-haired, and unfailingly courteous. He kissed Ava's forehead and told Natalie the child looked healthier. Then he entered the dining room and argued with Dominic behind a closed door. Their voices carried through the walls. They killed 3 of ours, Julian said. People are waiting for you to answer. I am answering. With meetings, with pressure that does not turn the city into a graveyard. Your father would have answered blood with blood. Dominic's reply came low and clear. My father buried 2 sons before he understood that graves do not create loyalty. Silence followed. Julian left an hour later. As he passed Natalie in the hallway, he offered a polite smile. You have had a remarkable influence on him. Something in his tone made Natalie uneasy. I do not make Dominic's decisions. No, Julian said. Of course not. He walked out. That evening, Dominic joined Natalie on the porch while Ava slept inside with Marcus nearby. Julian thinks you are making me weak, he said. Is he right? Dominic looked toward the trees. No. You hesitated. I was deciding whether strength has always meant the wrong thing to me. Natalie leaned against the railing. What happens now? 2 of Vale's lieutenants are willing to negotiate. They are losing money. Their drivers are refusing routes. Their partners are becoming nervous. And Vale. He thinks accepting terms will make him look weak, then give him something he can call a victory. Dominic studied her. You say that like it is simple. It is not simple. It is human. People will accept loss if they can protect their pride. A faint smile touched his mouth. You would be dangerous in my business. I have no interest in your business. That is why you would be dangerous. The agreement came on the 5th day. Vale surrendered claims to 2 disputed warehouses. Dominic gave up a gambling route he had never cared about. Publicly, both sides declared the arrangement fair. Privately, Dominic's men were divided. Some respected the outcome. Others believed he should have answered the deaths with more death. When Dominic came upstairs, he found Natalie on the floor beside Ava. The baby gripped the coffee table and pulled herself upright. Dominic stopped in the doorway. Ava's knees shook. Natalie held out her hands without touching her. You have it, she whispered. Ava looked toward Dominic. He crouched beside her. Come on, little storm. Ava released one hand from the table. Her balance shifted. Then she looked directly at Natalie. Mama. The sound was soft and uncertain. Natalie froze. Dominic's face changed. Ava smiled. Mama. Natalie covered her mouth. Joy came first. Then guilt struck so quickly it stole her breath. She looked toward the framed photograph of Claire on the shelf. I cannot, she whispered. Dominic moved beside her. She chose the sound. She has a mother. Yes. That is not me. No. The answer hurt even though it was true. Dominic placed one hand against Natalie's back. She can love you without losing Claire. Natalie stared at Ava. And Lily. His voice softened. Loving Ava does not erase her either. Natalie gathered the child into her arms. Ava pressed a wet kiss against her cheek. Dominic held both of them. For one quiet moment, the war beyond the walls disappeared. 3 weeks later, Natalie woke to her phone vibrating on the nightstand. The clock read 3:07. Harper's name glowed across the screen. Natalie slipped out of bed and answered in the hallway. Harper. I received an email. Her friend's voice shook. What kind of email? Photographs of you. You and Ava. You and Dominic. Natalie's stomach tightened. Send them to me. There is more. Harper took a breath. They are threatening to report you to your licensing board. They say Dominic is using you, that Ava is being endangered, and that they have proof of an improper relationship. Natalie leaned against the wall. What do they want? You gone within 24 hours. The files arrived while they were still speaking. Natalie opened the first image. She was nursing Ava beneath a blanket in a park. The second showed Dominic kissing her outside the clinic. The third showed the Bayou house. The fourth had been taken through the glass of her office. Her hands began to shake. Dominic appeared at the end of the hallway, already dressed, his phone in one hand. Marcus found a surveillance device near the garage, he said. Natalie handed him her phone. He read the email without expression. Then he looked at her. You and Ava are leaving before sunrise. No, this is different. We already had this argument. They are threatening your career. Then we defend it. They may involve child services. Then we show them the medical records. You do not understand what people like this can manufacture. Natalie stepped closer. Then teach me. His face tightened. I cannot lose you. Then do not lock me away. This is not about control. It becomes control when you take away my choice. Dominic looked at the photographs again. Fear and fury moved behind his eyes. Natalie placed her hand against his chest. If I disappear now, they learn that threatening me controls you. His jaw clenched. She continued. You said family makes a man vulnerable. Maybe it does, but family also means you do not fight alone. Dominic closed his eyes. When he opened them, the decision had been made. At 9 that morning, 5 senior members of the Kane organization gathered inside Dominic's study. Marcus stood near the door. Julian Cross sat at the far end of the table. Printed photographs lay beneath the cold light. Every man looked toward Natalie when she entered. Dominic pulled out the chair beside his own. Not behind him, beside him. Natalie sat down. The room remained silent for several seconds. 5 men surrounded the conference table. Marcus stood near the door with his hands folded in front of him. Julian Cross sat across from Natalie. His silver hair perfectly arranged, his expression calm enough to be practiced. Dominic placed both palms on the table. These photographs were taken over several weeks, he said. Someone had access to our schedules, the clinic, the park, and the safe house. One of the men opened a folder. The email passed through several private servers. We cannot identify the sender yet. Natalie studied the printed images. The photographs were designed to look intimate and suspicious. Ava nursing beneath a blanket. Dominic touching Natalie's back outside the clinic. Natalie entering her private office. A photograph from the bayou showed Dominic standing beside a car, while 2 armed men waited nearby. Each picture told part of the truth. Together, they created a lie. What exactly did the message say? Julian asked. Natalie looked at him. It accused Dominic of placing Ava in danger. It described my role as improper and suggested I used a vulnerable child to enter his home. Julian's eyes moved toward Dominic. That language sounds legal. It sounds calculated, Natalie said. Every man at the table turned toward her. Natalie placed the photographs in chronological order. The sender did not choose the most dangerous images. There are no weapons near Ava. No clear evidence of a crime. These pictures focus on me. One of the men frowned. Why does that matter? Because they are not trying to prove Dominic is violent. Everyone in this room already knows what people believe about him. Dominic said nothing. Natalie continued. They are trying to make me look unstable. They want questions about my judgment, my profession, and my relationship with Ava. Marcus moved closer to the table. They want her removed. Yes, Natalie said, but not by force. Dominic's gaze sharpened. They want me to send her away. Natalie nodded. If I leave after one anonymous threat, whoever sent it learns that I can be used to control you. A man near Julian leaned forward. Or they want child services involved. An investigation would create a tension none of us need. Natalie looked at him. Then we prepare for an investigation. The man almost laughed. You think paperwork protects people from power? No, Natalie said. I think records protect facts from people who depend on fear. Dominic looked at her with quiet approval. Julian leaned back. You are very confident for someone who has been part of this family for less than 2 months. The word family sounded wrong in his mouth. Natalie met his gaze. I am confident about Ava's medical care. That is the only subject I addressed. Julian smiled slightly. Of course. Marcus placed a security schedule on the table. The camera angles repeat at 4 locations. The same security teams covered the clinic, the park, and the building garage. Dominic looked down the list. Names. Evan Cole was present at 3 locations. Robert Sloan at 2. Daniel Price at 2. What about the safe house? Marcus turned another page. None of them knew the route. The room became still. Only senior staff had known where Natalie and Ava were taken. Dominic looked around the table. Everyone who had access to the safe house location remains in New Orleans until this is resolved. Julian's expression did not change. You are restricting your own leadership. I am protecting my family. Some might say that distinction is becoming difficult to recognize. Dominic turned toward him. Say what you mean. Julian folded his hands. Your attention has shifted. Meetings are delayed. Decisions are questioned. Men who killed 3 of ours received territory instead of graves. We prevented a war. We delayed one. Dominic's voice became quiet. If you believe I have lost control, Julian, say it clearly. Julian held his gaze. I believe people are beginning to wonder. No one moved. Natalie felt the tension pass through the room like electricity. Dominic straightened. Then they can wonder while following orders. He dismissed the meeting. The men stood and left one at a time. Julian remained seated until the others were gone. He looked at Natalie. You should understand something about men like Dominic. Natalie did not respond. They are never only one thing. The man who holds your hand at night is still the man who orders another man buried before breakfast. Dominic stepped between them. That is enough. Julian rose. I am trying to protect what your father built. My father is dead. Yes, Julian said. And some of us still remember why people feared him. He walked out. The door closed behind him. Natalie looked at Dominic. He wanted me to hear that. He wants you frightened. He wants you angry. Dominic glanced toward the door. Julian has been with me since I was 20. That does not make him innocent. No, but it makes suspecting him harder. Dominic looked at her. Yes. The investigation continued for 3 days. Marcus reviewed guard rotations, vehicle records, and building access logs. Dominic's financial people followed payments through private companies. Natalie met with an attorney named Rebecca Shaw, who specialized in family law and professional licensing. Rebecca was direct, practical, and unimpressed by Dominic. If an anonymous complaint reaches the board, you disclose the full arrangement before they ask, she told Natalie. Medical approval, caregiving agreement, payment records, office security, and every treatment note related to Ava. Natalie glanced at Dominic. He prefers problems to remain private. Rebecca closed the folder. Privacy is useful until someone else controls the story. Dominic did not argue. Natalie contacted her licensing board that afternoon. She submitted the temporary agreement, health screening clinic recommendations, and documentation showing that Ava's care was separate from Natalie's therapy practice. When she ended the call, her hands were shaking. Dominic stood near the office door. You did not have to do that alone. Yes, I did. Why? Because it is my license. He came closer. What happens now? They review the records. They may request an interview. And if they suspend you... Natalie looked at him. Then I fight it through the proper process. I can make sure they do not. The words were quiet. Natalie's face hardened. No, I was not threatening anyone. You were thinking about influence. I was thinking about protecting you. Then protect my right to handle my own profession. Dominic's jaw tightened. After a moment, he nodded. All right. The annual dinner of the city's major families took place 4 nights later. Dominic had planned to attend alone. Natalie stood in the dressing room wearing a black gown with a high neckline and long sleeves. You are not going without me, she said. Dominic watched her fasten an earring. This is not a social event. I know. Warren Vale will be there. I know. He may be behind the photographs. That is why I am going. Dominic crossed the room. I cannot protect you from every conversation in that building. I am not asking you to. He looked at her dress. You look beautiful. Natalie met his eyes in the mirror. You look worried. I am. Good. It means you understand the risk. Before they left, Dominic gave her instructions. Do not drink from a glass you did not see opened. Natalie nodded. Do not promise anything even as a joke. All right. If Marcus touches his cuff twice, you leave with him. And you, I will follow when I can. Natalie turned. That was not our agreement. If there is an immediate threat, Ava needs one of us outside that room. The mention of Ava silenced her. Dominic took her hand. I am not asking you to hide. I am asking you to trust the signal. Natalie nodded. The restaurant occupied the second floor of a private building in the French Quarter. No sign hung outside. The windows were covered and every entrance was guarded. Inside, candlelight moved across dark wood and white tablecloths. Judges spoke quietly beside union leaders. Business owners laughed with men Natalie recognized from newspaper photographs. Politicians stood near people they would deny knowing in public. Dominic placed one hand against the small of her back. The gesture appeared gentle. Natalie understood it was also a message. She was with him. An older woman approached wearing a deep blue dress and a diamond brooch. Dominic Kane, she said, bringing a guest after all these years. Dominic kissed her cheek. Eleanor Russo, this is Natalie Hayes. Eleanor studied Natalie carefully. I have heard about you. I assumed I would be discussed. Eleanor smiled. At least you are not pretending otherwise. Her gaze moved toward Dominic. Your mother would have liked her. Dominic's expression softened. You say that about very few people. I mean it about fewer. Eleanor moved away. Natalie leaned toward Dominic. Was that approval as close as anyone gets from Eleanor? Across the room, Julian stood speaking to Warren Vale. Natalie felt Dominic noticed the same thing. Warren was in his 50s with silver at his temples and a smile too polished to be warm. He approached them after dinner was served. Dominic. Warren. Their handshake lasted a second too long. Warren turned toward Natalie. Ms. Hayes, I have wanted to meet the woman who brought peace to the Kane nursery. Natalie held his gaze. That is an unusual way to describe infant care. I hear Ava has become quite attached to you. She is attached to several consistent caregivers. Of course. His eyes moved over her face. The pink coat she wore in the park suited her. Natalie's blood went cold. That detail had never appeared publicly. Dominic stepped closer. Choose your next words carefully. Warren smiled. I was complimenting your daughter. You have never seen my daughter. No, Warren said. But New Orleans is a small city. Natalie spoke before Dominic could. Small cities still have boundaries. Warren looked at her with interest. Men who build families often forget empires require sacrifice. Natalie felt Dominic's body become still beside her. She answered calmly. Weak men sacrifice people they cannot protect. Strong men find another way. The surrounding conversation seemed quiet. Warren's smile remained, but his eyes hardened. You have confidence. I have facts. Facts depend on who controls the room. No, Natalie said. Stories do. Warren looked toward Dominic. You chose well. Dominic's voice was cold. She chose me. Warren walked away. Natalie released the breath she had been holding. Dominic leaned closer. You should have let me answer. He wanted you angry. He threatened Ava. And now everyone saw him do it. Dominic looked across the room. Several people were watching Warren with new caution. Natalie had given them a public reason to question him. When they returned to the penthouse, Marcus was waiting in the study. A folder lay open on the desk. We found the money, he said. Dominic removed his jacket. From Vale, a company connected to him. Payments were divided across 6 accounts, to whom Marcus looked toward Natalie, then back at Dominic. Julian. The name entered the room like a blade. Dominic did not react at first. Marcus continued. He paid Evan for the photographs. Evan gave us the camera locations and messages. Julian provided the safe house route. Natalie watched Dominic's face empty. Not anger. Something colder. Betrayal stripped of surprise. Where is he? Dominic asked. At the riverfront warehouse. Alive. Yes. Dominic walked toward the door. Natalie followed him into the hallway. Dominic. He stopped. You do not want to come with me. No, I want you to remember who you said you were becoming." His eyes darkened. "He put a camera outside your office. He threatened Ava. I know. He stood inside my home and pretended loyalty. I know. You want me to forgive that no?" Natalie stepped closer. "But do not let him choose what kind of man you become tonight." Dominic looked at her for a long moment. Then he left with Marcus. The warehouse stood beside the river, empty except for Julian, Dominic, Marcus, and 2 guards. Julian sat in a metal chair beneath a hanging light. His jacket had been removed. His hands were tied in front of him. Dominic stood several feet away. "How long?" he asked. Julian looked up. "Long enough to watch you forget yourself. You sold Ava's location. I gave Warren a place to create pressure. He was never supposed to hurt the child." Dominic crossed the distance between them and struck him once. Julian's chair tipped but did not fall. Marcus remained near the door. Dominic looked down at the man who had served beside him for 16 years. "Do not speak about my daughter as if your intentions matter." Julian wiped blood from his lip. "You used to understand necessity. You used my family to challenge me. I tried to save what your father built. My father built fear. I inherited the consequences." Julian laughed softly. "And now a therapist tells you how to lead. Natalie did not betray me. She changed you." Dominic crouched in front of him. "Yes." Julian's expression faltered. Dominic continued. "She taught me that restraint is not surrender. You mistook that for weakness because violence is the only language you know how to speak. Then prove me wrong. Kill me." Dominic looked at him. Julian wanted death. A fast end, a final act that would turn his betrayal into courage. Dominic stood. "No." Julian's confidence slipped. "You will leave Louisiana before sunrise," Dominic said. "Your accounts are empty. Your properties belong to the families of the men who died at the warehouse." Julian stared at him. "Every organization from Texas to Florida will know you sold information about a child. No one will trust you. No one will protect you. You think that is mercy? No." Dominic stepped closer. "Death would make you a martyr. Living will make you a warning." Marcus cut the restraints. Julian remained seated. Dominic turned away. "Warren plans to challenge you at the council," Julian said. Dominic stopped. "He has agreements with 2 union officials and 3 of your distributors. He will claim your leadership is compromised. When tomorrow night?" Dominic looked over his shoulder. "What evidence does he have?" "Nothing that matters." "That is not what I asked." Julian smiled through the blood on his mouth. "He has the photographs. Your reduced meetings, the agreement after the warehouse attack. He will say Natalie made you soft." Dominic walked back toward him. "And what does Warren have to hide?" Julian hesitated. Dominic waited. "Payments to city officials," Julian said. "False contracts. Orders to attack outside agreed territory. Where are the records in a private server? Marcus knows the company name." Dominic looked at Marcus. Marcus nodded. They left Julian inside the warehouse with a car key, a bag of clothes, and 1 road out of New Orleans. By morning, Dominic's team had recovered enough evidence to destroy Warren's coalition. Natalie sat beside Dominic as folders covered the dining table. "He paid inspectors to close your warehouses," she said. "He also bribed drivers to abandon routes." And the child services threat Marcus placed an email record in front of them. One of Warren's attorneys wrote the language. Julian sent the photographs. Natalie read the messages twice. Her fear became anger, not panic, not helplessness. Anger with direction. The council meeting took place that evening in a private room above an old bank. Warren stood at the head of the table. Dominic entered with Natalie beside him and Marcus behind them. Several family leaders watched in silence. Warren began without greeting. Dominic Kane has allowed personal attachments to compromise his judgment. He surrendered profitable territory after 3 men were killed. He reduced his presence in business. He has placed his daughter in an unstable arrangement with a woman whose professional boundaries are already under investigation. Natalie felt every eye move toward her. Dominic remained still. Warren placed copies of the photographs on the table. This is not leadership. It is distraction. Dominic waited until Warren finished. Then Marcus distributed the folders. Bank transfers, recorded calls, bribery agreements, messages ordering surveillance, proof of attacks beyond veiled territory. The room changed. Warren opened the first folder and closed it quickly. You obtained these illegally. Dominic sat down. You ordered them illegally. Warren looked toward the others. This proves nothing. Natalie spoke. It proves the photographs were selected to create a false claim about Ava's care. Warren turned toward her. You should not be in this room. You placed my name in your argument. That gave me a reason to answer. She placed Ava's medical records on the table. Ava was underweight and developmentally delayed when I entered the Kane home. Her care was approved by physicians, a feeding therapist, and a lactation consultant. Every appointment was documented. Dominic attended them. Warren smiled coldly. And your relationship with him? Personal. Improper. Not according to the attorney who reviewed the agreement or the board reviewing my records. Warren's smile disappeared. Natalie leaned forward. You are free to judge Dominic. You are not free to invent harm to a child because his love for her threatens your ambition. Silence filled the room. Eleanor Russo closed Warren's folder. You involved a baby in a territorial dispute, she said. Warren looked around the table and realized the room was no longer his. Dominic gave him 2 choices. Retire from active leadership, surrender the contested routes, and end every action against Natalie and Ava, or allow the evidence to reach every ally official and business partner Warren had paid. You call that mercy? Warren asked. Dominic looked at Natalie before answering. No, mercy is what she taught me. His gaze returned to Warren. This is strategy. Warren accepted. The victory cost Dominic 2 profitable routes and the loyalty of several men who preferred fear to change. Natalie's licensing board requested a formal interview. She attended without Dominic. 2 weeks later, the board cleared her of misconduct and recommended clearer separation between private caregiving and clinical work. That evening, Dominic placed the keys to Natalie's apartment on the kitchen table. You kept these? She asked. I had Marcus collect them after the surveillance threat, without asking me. Yes. She waited. Dominic looked down. I was wrong. Natalie touched the keys. What are you saying that you can leave? Her chest tightened. I know. I need to know you stay because you choose me. Not because my daughter needs you. Not because I pay you. Not because I built walls high enough to make the outside world feel impossible. Natalie looked toward the nursery. Ava slept peacefully inside. Dominic continued. Take a week. You want me gone? No. The honesty in his voice almost broke her. I want you here more than I have ever wanted anything. That is why I have to let you walk out. Natalie closed her fingers around the keys. Dominic did not stop her when she packed. He carried her suitcase to the elevator. The doors opened. Natalie stepped inside. For the first time since entering the Kane penthouse, she left without Ava in her arms. Dominic remained in the hallway. He did not ask when she was coming back. The elevator doors closed between them. Natalie watched Dominic disappear behind polished metal, his face still fixed in the last expression she had seen before leaving. He had looked afraid, not of Warren Vale armed men or losing territory, of losing her. The elevator descended through the tower while the small numbers above the door changed one by one. Natalie held the handle of her suitcase with both hands because she did not know what else to do with them. For weeks, one arm had almost always carried Ava. The emptiness felt unnatural. When the elevator opened into the lobby, Marcus stood beside the front desk. He had followed another route downstairs, moving with the efficiency of a man trained to arrive before anyone realized he had left. "I will drive you," he said. "I can call a car. Mr. Kane asked me to make sure you arrive safely." Natalie looked toward the security desk. "Did he ask you to stay outside my apartment?" "No." She studied Marcus. "Are you lying?" "No." "Would you tell me if you were?" Marcus opened the glass door. "Probably not." Despite everything, Natalie smiled. The night air was warm and heavy. Music drifted from a bar across the street. Cars moved along the avenue, carrying people toward dinners, arguments, hospital rooms, and ordinary lives. Natalie had once belonged to that world. Now it felt like she was returning from another country. During the drive, Marcus did not speak until the city changed around them, and the glass towers gave way to smaller buildings. "Ava accepted 6 ounces from Mr. Kane yesterday," he said. Natalie looked out the window. "I know. She will be all right. I know that too." Marcus kept his eyes on the road. "He will not be." Natalie turned toward him. "That is not fair." "No." "Then why say it?" "Because he would not." Natalie stared at the dark streets. "He asked me to leave. He gave you a choice. There is a difference, for him there is." Marcus stopped outside her apartment building and carried the suitcase to the entrance. Natalie took the handle from him. "Do not let him stop eating. He does not listen to me. Tell Ava to make him." Marcus nodded solemnly. "That may work." Natalie entered the building alone. Her apartment smelled faintly of dust and lavender detergent. Everything remained exactly where she had left it. A ceramic mug sat upside down beside the sink. 2 books were stacked on the coffee table. A sweater hung across the back of a chair. The room was small, familiar, and painfully quiet. Natalie switched on a lamp. The yellow hospital blanket remained hidden in the bottom drawer of her dresser. She knew it was there before she entered the bedroom. For 3 months after Lily died, Natalie had opened that drawer every night. She would touch the blanket, close the drawer, and lie awake, imagining the weight of a child she had never held. Since moving into Dominic's home, she had stopped opening it. That fact filled her with guilt. Natalie sat on the edge of the bed and pulled the drawer open. The blanket was folded beneath a stack of shirts. Soft yellow fabric, white stitching along the edge. One corner bore a faint mark where Natalie had gripped it in the hospital. She lifted it carefully. It still smelled like nothing. Natalie pressed it against her chest. "I did not forget you," she whispered. The words disappeared into the room. "I did not leave because I stopped loving you." Her voice broke. "I left because I did not know how to stay alive beside what happened." Natalie lowered herself to the floor. For a long time she cried into the blanket. Not the restrained tears she allowed during therapy. Not the silent grief she carried through supermarkets and crowded elevators. She cried like a mother whose child had died. Because that was what she was. Loving Ava had not changed it. Loving Dominic had not changed it. Nothing would. When the tears passed, Natalie remained on the floor, breathing slowly. Her phone vibrated beside the bed. A photograph appeared on the screen. Ava sat in her high chair with mashed banana across her cheeks. Dominic was visible behind her, holding a spoon and looking deeply offended. The message beneath the photograph contained only 3 words. "She hates bananas." Natalie laughed through the last of her tears. She typed a reply. "She hates your technique." Dominic responded a minute later. "My technique is flawless." Natalie looked at the photograph again. Ava's eyes were bright. Her cheeks had become fuller over the past 2 months. One hand gripped the edge of the tray while the other reached toward Dominic. Natalie wanted to call. Instead, she placed the phone face down. The week had to mean something. The following morning, she returned to her office. Her receptionist hugged her at the door. "You look tired," Grace said. "Thank you. I meant human. That is not much better." Grace smiled. "It is good to have you back." Natalie spent the day meeting clients in person. The familiar rhythm helped. The quiet waiting room. The sound machine outside her office. The notebooks arranged on the shelf. People entering with pain they could not organize and leaving with language for some part of it. Her first client was a mother struggling after a difficult birth. Her second was a boy afraid to sleep after witnessing an accident. Her final session was with the 16-year-old who had lost his father. He sat across from Natalie and twisted the string of his sweatshirt around one finger. I laughed. "Yesterday," he said. Natalie waited. "My friend told a stupid joke." I laughed before I remembered my dad. "How did you feel afterward?" "Bad." "Because you laughed. Because I forgot." Natalie thought about Ava's laugh filling the penthouse, about Dominic cooking in the kitchen, about Lily's blanket waiting in a drawer while Natalie experienced moments of happiness somewhere else. "You did not forget him," she said. "It felt like I did." A moment without pain is not the same as forgetting. The boy looked at the floor. "How do you know?" Natalie paused. "Because I am learning the same thing." After work, she attended her own therapy appointment. Dr. Evelyn Moore had treated Natalie since the week after the funeral. She had never pushed Natalie to speak about Lily before she was ready. Now she listened while Natalie described the wedding, Ava, Dominic, the penthouse, the danger, the surveillance, and the week apart. When Natalie finished, Evelyn folded her hands. "Do you love him?" "Yes." The answer came easily. "Do you trust him?" Natalie took longer. "I trust that he wants to protect us." That was not the question. "I trust him more than I did." "Does he respect your choices?" "He is learning." "And are you staying because you love him, or because caring for Ava allows you to avoid your grief?" Natalie looked toward the window. "At first I think it was both. And now Ava does not need me in the same way. She eats from a bottle. Dominic can calm her. She sleeps without me." "How does that make you feel?" "Proud." Evelyn waited, and terrified. "Why?" "Because if she does not need me, then I have to admit I want to stay." Evelyn nodded. Wanting is more vulnerable than being needed. Natalie felt the truth of it settle inside her. Being needed had given her permission. Wanting required choice. On the second day, Dominic sent a photograph of Ava asleep on his chest. On the third, a short video arrived. Ava held the edge of a couch and took one uncertain step toward Marcus before collapsing onto the rug. Marcus could be heard saying, "That did not count." Dominic answered from behind the camera. It counted. Natalie watched the video 12 times. She did not reply until evening. "Tell her I saw it." Dominic responded. "Tell her yourself when you are ready. No pressure, no command, no question about when she would return. The restraint hurt more than pleading would have." On the fourth day, Natalie visited Harper. They sat on the back porch while Ryan grilled dinner. Harper poured iced tea and watched Natalie with the patience of someone waiting for a confession. "I left," Natalie said. "I know. Dominic told Ryan Marcus did." Natalie shook her head. "That man is incapable of minding his business. He works for a crime boss. Knowing everyone's business is the job." Natalie stared into her glass. "He let me go." Harper sat beside her. "You sound surprised. I expected him to argue, or send security, or create some emergency that forced me back." But he did not. No. What does that tell you? That he listened. Harper touched her arm. And what are you going to do? I do not know. That is a lie. Natalie looked at her. Harper continued. You know, you are afraid to say it because once you choose them, you cannot pretend this happened to you. The words were gentle but precise. Natalie looked toward the yard where Ryan stood over the grill. What if I am making another mistake? You might be. That is comforting. You asked me to be honest. Harper leaned back. Dominic is dangerous. His world may never become normal. You will need legal protection, financial independence, and boundaries stronger than romance. But I have watched you for months. You were disappearing before you met him. Natalie's eyes burned. And now you are scared because you have something to lose. The following morning, Natalie drove to the cemetery. Lily's grave stood beneath a young maple tree at the edge of the grounds. The stone was small. Lily Rose Hayes, beloved daughter, forever held in our hearts. Natalie knelt and brushed leaves from the base. For months she had come here carrying apologies. I am sorry I could not save you. I am sorry I stayed with Caleb. I am sorry my body failed. Today she placed the yellow blanket inside a clear keepsake box and set it before the stone. I met a little girl, she said. The cemetery was quiet except for birds in the trees. Her name is Ava. She was lonely before she knew what loneliness meant. Natalie touched Lily's name. I thought helping her meant I was using her to find you. Her voice trembled. Maybe part of me was. She looked at the blanket. But she is not you. She laughs when Dominic makes the wrong animal sounds. She hates bananas. She sleeps with both hands above her head. Natalie smiled through tears. And she calls me Mama. The word broke open inside her, but she did not turn away from it. I love her. A breeze moved through the maple leaves. I love you too. Natalie pressed her fingertips to the cold stone. I am not leaving you behind. For the first time, she did not ask Lily for forgiveness. She simply stayed until the sun shifted across the grass. On the 6th day, Dominic sent no photograph. By afternoon, Natalie had checked her phone more times than she wanted to admit. At 4:30, Marcus called. Her heart stopped. What happened? Nothing. Why are you calling? Mr. Kane left his phone in a meeting. Natalie closed her eyes. You could have started with that. Ava took 3 steps. Natalie sat down. 3, possibly 4. Mr. Kane says 4. I say 3. Did you record it? No. Marcus? I was preventing her from striking the table. Natalie smiled. Is she all right? She is laughing. And Dominic. A pause followed. He misses you. Natalie looked around her quiet office. I miss him too. Marcus said nothing. You can tell him that. I assumed. Do not sound pleased with yourself. I would never. The call ended. That night, Natalie packed no suitcase. She placed her keys in her purse and drove toward the river. The penthouse tower rose above the city, its windows reflecting the last light of evening. Security recognized her in the lobby. The guard reached for the private elevator key. Ms. Hayes. Is Dominic home? Yes. Does he know I'm here? Not yet. Good. The elevator carried her upward. Natalie watched the numbers change. The last time she had stood inside this car, she had felt as if she were being pulled away from a life she could no longer survive. Now, every floor brought her closer to one she was choosing. The doors opened. Dominic stood across the penthouse near the windows with Ava in his arms. He froze. Ava saw Natalie first. Mama. The child stretched both arms toward her. Natalie crossed the room. Dominic did not move until she reached them. He handed Ava over. The weight settled into Natalie's arms with familiar warmth. Ava touched Natalie's face, then buried her head against her neck. Natalie closed her eyes. Dominic watched them. "Did you come for her?" he asked. "Partly." His expression remained controlled, but she saw fear beneath it. And the rest, Natalie looked at him. "I came because I missed the man who finally learned to let me leave." Dominic exhaled slowly. "I did not learn anything. I hated every second." "But you did it. I almost sent Marcus to bring you back. He would not have succeeded." "I know." He said the same thing. Natalie shifted Ava on her hip. "I want to come home." Dominic's eyes closed for 1 second. When he opened them, he did not reach for her. "What do you need?" The question mattered. Natalie walked toward the living room and sat with Ava beside her. Dominic took the chair across from them. "I keep my apartment." "Yes." "My income remains separate." "Yes." "You do not move money, property, or business interests into my name without asking." "Agreed." "If danger affects me, I am told the truth. I do not need every detail of your operations, but I need enough to make decisions about my life." Dominic nodded. "You continue moving the legal businesses away from everything violent." His face tightened. "That will take time. I know. It may create more enemies. I know that too. I cannot promise I will become a man with clean hands. I am not asking you to lie." Natalie held his gaze. "I am asking you to create a future Ava can inherit without needing to fear where every dollar came from." Dominic looked at his daughter. Ava had found a button on Natalie's blouse and was studying it with complete concentration. "I have already started," he said. Natalie's heart shifted. "What have you done?" "Separated the construction and shipping companies from the private accounts. Marcus is helping move security contracts into legitimate ownership. The gambling rooms will take longer. You did that this week. I needed something to do besides stare at the elevator." Natalie almost laughed. "One more thing." Dominic waited. "Love cannot be used to demand silence." His expression became serious. "Agreed, and I will never be part of your criminal decisions. I would never ask you to be. You might think you are protecting me by hiding consequences. I might. Then remember this conversation." "I will." Natalie stood. Dominic rose with her. Ava looked between them. "Anything else?" he asked. "Yes." Natalie stepped closer and kissed him. For a moment, Dominic did not react. Then his arms surrounded both her and Ava. The embrace was tight, almost desperate, but he did not pull Natalie closer than she chose to come. Ava laughed between them. Dominic rested his forehead against Natalie's. "Are you staying tonight?" "I am staying." "And tomorrow?" Natalie touched his face. "Start with tonight." The months that followed did not become easy. They became real. Dominic began restructuring the Kane organization in stages. The River Shipping Company adopted outside audits. Construction contracts moved through legitimate boards. Marcus created a licensed security firm that hired veterans and former police officers under legal supervision. Some men supported the changes. Others left. A few threatened Dominic before leaving and discovered that restraint did not mean helplessness. He remained dangerous. Natalie never pretended otherwise. But violence became the last answer rather than the first. Ava continued growing. She learned to walk across the living room with both arms raised for balance. She said "Dada" clearly before she learned Marcus, although Marcus insisted her attempt sounded accurate. She accepted bottles, solid food, and comfort from several trusted caregivers. Natalie gradually stopped nursing her. The final feeding happened on a rainy evening while Dominic sat beside them in the nursery. Ava drank for only a few minutes before turning away toward a board book. Natalie looked down at her. "That is it." Ava slapped the book. Dominic smiled. "I believe you have been replaced by a cardboard elephant." Natalie laughed, but tears filled her eyes. She buttoned her blouse and held Ava against her one last time. The end felt gentle. No screaming, no abandonment. Only a child ready for something new. Dominic touched Natalie's shoulder. You gave her what she needed. We both did. Natalie placed Ava in his arms. She needs bedtime. Dominic opened the book. His elephant sound was terrible. Ava laughed anyway. In the following spring, Natalie created a memory shelf in the nursery. She placed a framed photograph of Claire beside a photograph of Lily's tiny hand wrapped around Natalie's finger. Claire's wedding ring rested inside a small glass case. Lily's yellow blanket lay folded beneath it. Dominic stood in the doorway. Natalie watched him study the photographs. Is it too much? She asked. No. He entered the room. I have never seen that picture of Lily. The nurse took it. Dominic moved closer. She was beautiful. Natalie swallowed. Yes. He touched the edge of the frame. It is strange. What someone so small changed the direction of all our lives. Natalie looked toward Ava, sleeping in the crib. She did. Ava would grow up knowing Claire's name. She would know her mother loved music, hated expensive flowers, and laughed when she was angry. She would also know Lily existed. No one would become a secret to protect someone else's comfort. One evening, nearly a year after Natalie crossed the wedding aisle, she found Dominic sitting on the nursery floor. Ava had fallen asleep in his arms. The room glowed beneath a small lamp. Dominic looked up. I need you to take her. Natalie smiled. Did she trap you again? Yes. Natalie lifted Ava carefully and placed her in the crib. When she turned, Dominic remained on one knee. For 1 second, she thought he was struggling to stand. Then she saw the ring in his hand. Natalie stopped breathing. Dominic, I had a speech. That sounds dangerous. It was very good. What happened to it? You walked in. He looked down at the ring. The diamond had belonged to his mother. Beside it rested a smaller stone. Claire's, Natalie asked. Yes. Her chest tightened. Did you choose that I spoke to her sister first? Then I waited until I could ask you. Natalie knelt in front of him. Dominic held the ring between them. I brought you into my home because Ava needed you. His voice remained steady, but his hand did not. I asked you to stay because I needed you. Natalie's eyes filled. But I am asking you to marry me because I want to build a life where none of us has to earn the right to belong. She touched his face. Is this the part where you promise nothing bad will ever happen? No. He looked toward Ava's crib. This is the part where I promise you will never face it alone. Natalie kissed him before answering. Yes. Dominic's breath broke against her mouth. Yes, yes. He placed the ring on her finger. Ava stirred. Both of them froze. The baby settled again. Natalie whispered, She approves. She has excellent judgment. She likes bananas now. That was your influence. The wedding took place in the courtyard of the same Garden District mansion where they had met. Harper stood beside Natalie in a pale blue dress. Ryan waited near the front with Dominic and Marcus. Magnolia branches formed an arch above the ceremony. There was no storm. Sunlight moved across the white chairs. Music drifted through the open doors. Guests spoke quietly while Ava walked unsteadily down the aisle, scattering petals from a basket Marcus carried for her. A baby cried somewhere among the guests. Natalie froze. For half a second, the sound pulled her backward. White hospital lights, an empty bassinet, the yellow blanket. Then Harper squeezed her hand. You okay? Natalie looked toward Dominic. He stood beneath the magnolia branches with Ava beside him, His eyes never left her. Natalie breathed. I am now. She walked down the aisle. Dominic's vows were simple. I cannot promise a life without danger. I cannot erase the things I have done or the people we have lost. His voice carried through the courtyard. I can promise that every decision I make from this day forward will begin with this family. I will choose you when choosing you costs me. I will listen when my first instinct is to command. I will come home. Natalie held his hands. You met me when I believed the best part of me had died. Her voice trembled but did not break. You did not ask me to forget my daughter. You gave me a place where her memory could live beside new love. Dominic's eyes shone. I promise to see the man you are, not only the man you fear you might become. I promise to protect Ava's story, Claire's place in it, and the life we choose together. Ava pulled on Natalie's dress. Mama. Soft laughter moved through the guests. Natalie lifted her. Ava rested between them as they completed their vows. When Dominic kissed Natalie, Ava placed both hands against their faces and laughed. Late that night, after the guests had left, Natalie stood on the mansion balcony with Ava asleep against her shoulder. The Mississippi River reflected the lights of New Orleans in the distance. Dominic joined them. One hand settled against Ava's back. The other circled Natalie's waist. The courtyard below was nearly empty. A few white petals moved across the stone. What are you thinking? Dominic asked. Natalie remembered the first wedding. The rain, the screaming baby, the dangerous stranger standing helpless at the back of the room. The moment she crossed the aisle without knowing whether she was walking toward salvation or another kind of ruin. She looked down at Ava. That she stopped crying before any of us did. Dominic kissed her temple. Ava shifted between them but did not wake. Natalie placed one hand over Dominic's. Below them, the city continued moving. Sirens in the distance, music from an open window, a streetcar bell ringing somewhere beyond the trees. The world remained dangerous. Their pasts remained true. Claire was still gone. Lily was still gone. Nothing they built erased the people they had lost. But memory no longer filled every empty space. Natalie leaned into Dominic while their daughter slept between them. For the first time, the silence did not feel like absence. It felt like home.